What do you want to call this guy? Black belt in jiu-jitsu, wizard, pioneer, innovator, and now one of the great promoters, frankly, of professional jiu-jitsu. You know him, you love him. The one and only Eddie Bravo joins the show. There he is.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, no problem, Eddie. How are you doing?
Doing great. Can't complain. Life is good.
Yeah, you've got so much going on. I noticed that you have the Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds shirt on. You've got EBI, I think 17 coming up. You've got Quintet coming up. You are quite the busy man.
Tony at the UFC.
Yeah, even that too. Be real, Eddie. How many hours a night do you sleep?
You know what? There was a sleep expert on JRE a couple weeks ago, and he scared the shit out of me. He said, you got to get at least 9 hours of sleep every night. And I'm like, shit. No wonder I feel like shit all day, because I get like 6, maybe 7.
I don't know how healthy that is, but I got to say, jiu-jitsu looks like it's never been healthier. You mentioned Tony Ferguson. I want to get to all the stuff you're doing in just a minute if I can. Tony, have you seen him training through his rehabilitation, through his knee injury? How's he looking?
He's looking great. He's done everything possible for his rehab. He's got the leg sleeves that are like compression leg sleeves. He's doing the red light therapy. He's got his own gym, and he has like all this recovery equipment, and his work ethic is the craziest of all time. Like, I don't know anybody that could keep up with him. He's a savage, and it's no surprise to me that when he fights in the octagon under those big bright lights and under all that pressure, he never breaks, and his cardio has never been a problem ever. He's a machine. He really is.
Now, did you give him his black belt?
Yes, I did.
Okay. We were talking about that earlier. Have you ever given a black belt to somebody? Not Dean. We had Dean Thomas on the show. As you know, he gave Tyron Woodley his black belt. Have you ever given it to somebody in the cage? As Dean was telling us, it wasn't that submission. He was going to give it to him anyway. But I'm wondering if you've ever done it that way.
Yes. Ben Eddy, he was a brown belt when he fought black belt Nick Honstein at EBI. I forget. I get the numbers confused, but it was the EBI, the last 145 show, the one that John Calistine won. We had a special combat jiu-jitsu championship match between Ben Eddy and Nick Honstein, and I've been, I was waiting for the right time to give Ben his black belt, and that was the perfect time. Him beating Nick Honstein for the belt. So he won the combat jiu-jitsu, the EBI combat jiu-jitsu bantamweight belt, and he got his black belt in jiu-jitsu as well. So yes, I have done it before.
Let's talk about some of the things that are happening inside. We're going to get to this Quintet, which of course will be Friday, October 5th. You're a part of that. Also EBI 17 middleweights, as I understand it. That's an all combat jiu-jitsu event. But very quickly, I'm sure you saw Tyron Woodley's Darce choke over Darren Till from Saturday. Your assessment of his submission?
It was perfect. Till probably didn't think he would go for a submission. I don't know if we've ever seen Woodley go for a submission in the UFC. If Joe is correct, that was his first submission, because Joe talked about it. I don't remember him going for a submission, so Till probably didn't think he was actually going to sink it in. But the guy is a high-level wrestler, and most high-level wrestlers, they usually have a high-level Darce in their game, because it's basically a three-quarter Nelson, but you just turn it into a choke. So it didn't shock me at all.
All right, let's get to some of the things that I would love to pick your brain about. Now, you've got this thing, Quintet, October 5th. It'll be the day before Khabib versus McGregor, which I want to talk to you about as well. But it's going to work like this. It's Team Sakuraba, Team Polaris, Team 10th Planet, that's you, and then of Team Alpha Male. Josh Barnett's going to be a part of it as well. Your team, Gio Martinez, Richie Martinez. I'm going to mispronounce these names, so please, I apologize in advance, Eddie. Is it PJ Barch or Bark?
Barch.
And then Adam Saknoff, and then Amir Alan. Did I get those?
Exactly. Amir Alam with an M.
Alam.
Yeah.
I apologize. I knew I was going to botch one of those, Eddie. Eddie, talk to me about the state of professional jiu-jitsu. I mean, you got Fight to Win Pro out there. EBI's out there doing it. Now you've got Quintet. Like, you have been one of the guys at the forefront of professional jiu-jitsu for a long time. You competed in Metamoris. It seems like the market is as good as it's ever been.
Yes, it's as good as it's ever been, but it certainly has a tremendous room, a tremendous amount of room for growth, because it just, financially, all those shows that you mentioned, we're just like breaking even. You know what I mean? So there should be a bigger money fights. There should be, but at this point there isn't. But we're growing. Everybody that's involved right now in the promotion of these events is doing it as a passion project, because ain't nobody making real, significant money. No jiu-jitsu event has survived yet. I mean, most, like, Metamoris went down. EBI is still around, but we're basically just trying to survive, and so yes, the sport is bigger than it's ever been, but there's a long ways to go if we're all going to survive.
So make the argument for me if you can, because some might say, well, part of the reason why jiu-jitsu, professional jiu-jitsu, is sort of fly by night is because at the end of the day, it wasn't designed to be a spectator sport. Maybe you can make it that way, but it's not so easy. To that, you would say what?
That's perfect, man. That really is. Because all we've had before, when it comes to competitive jiu-jitsu, is the points format. And the points format will never look good on TV. It just won't. People are trying still. It just ain't gonna happen. We've been doing points tournaments for a while. And, these style events, like jiu-jitsu events, they're nothing new. Hickson had a show called Bushido back in the day. Rico Ciparelli had a show called Professional Submission League. They all went down because they were all a point-based system. So the only hope we have, the only hope for jiu-jitsu as a spectator sport, as a viable spectator sport, profitable, is the sub-only format. And that's why Quintet is blowing up right now, is because it's a submission only format. The points formats are like chess. Chess is a prestigious game, but you'll never see it in a pay-per-view format on cable.
Right. Let me read these rules for folks who may not know what the difference is between Quintet and some other professional jiu-jitsu outfits. Namely, Sakuraba named it himself. It's 5-on-5, but it works this way. 2 guys from each team start off competing on the mat, with either one is eliminated by submission. You can only win by submission. The winner then stays to face the next member. So if you win, you just keep going through other guys, or after 8 minutes, the time limit expires. Both guys are eliminated. The process plays out until 5 members of one team are eliminated, handing the victory to the other team. All 5 members of the winning team then all return for the finale match against the winner of the other semifinal fight. By the way, you could say, well, just have a heavyweight go against everybody, but the team must collectively weigh under, all 5, 943 pounds. So how do you strategize who goes first? Gio Martinez and Richie, 2 of your most celebrated students, but there's a big difference in size. How do you strategize around that?
Well, the way we did it in Quintet 2 is we put PJ Barch first, and Boogie second, Gio third, Amir fourth, and Adam Saknoff, our biggest guy, last. You could just there's a bunch of different ways you could do it, obviously, but PJ, he wrestled his whole life, and I felt that his defense is incredible, and I just thought that putting PJ first would be the smartest move. But I mean, we could put Gio first, and Gio might take out a whole team. So it's really hard to say which order is best especially since you don't know the order of the opposing teams. Like if you knew the order of then you could really strategize and really put some more mental effort into it. But when you have no idea how your opponent is going to line up their team, it's really just guesswork.
Now, as I mentioned, that'll be October 5th in the Orleans Arena in Orleans Casino in Las Vegas, the day before Khabib versus Conor. I know on EBI 17, I think that's going to be September 29th, right, Eddie, at the Muscle Farm HQ in Burbank, California, live on Fight Pass as well. Now, that one, the entire thing is combat jiu-jitsu. Let me ask you, is that going the way you thought it would when you introduced open palm strikes?
Absolutely. People love it. Combat Jiu-Jitsu was the format I was trying to push before EBI. I've actually put a couple combat jiu-jitsu matches together before EBI was even thought of. That's the format I really wanted. But because of the striking, you have to get the commission involved. With sub only, the commission has nothing to do with it. So you can just, put on a show and you don't have to get approval from anybody. But since there is striking in combat jiu-jitsu, the commission had to get involved. And back then, they didn't know what it was. Hold on. They didn't know what it was. So I wanted to do combat jiu-jitsu on open mats, not in a cage. The commission wanted to have it in a cage. They, basically said you had to have it in a cage. And I said, oh, okay. And I wanted 1 10-minute match. They said, no, we'll give you 3 2-minute matches. And I'm like, 3 2-minute rounds. Sorry, 3 2-minute rounds. And I thought you can't have a grappling match with 2 minutes. So we pushed it to 3 3-minute rounds, and that even sucks. But we accepted it. We tried a couple matches. We had mixed results. So at that point, I thought, let's just do sub only. So then EBI was born. We did sub only. We did about 10, 11 shows. Then at that point, I went back to the commission. I said, can I do combat jiu-jitsu now on open mats? And at that point, they were like, all for it. So then combat jiu-jitsu got approved, and then we started introducing it a little in, as special matches in EBI, and then people just love it. So then, I did combat jiu-jitsu worlds, and we did 2 8-man brackets, and that went, that had, that has like 500,000 views on my YouTube, and no EBI shows that I ever had on YouTube had, 500,000 views. So that people, there's a lot of submission only shows now. There's a bunch. There's, I would say, 30 of them now. So it just now is the right time to do EBI the way it was originally intended, and that's with combat jiu-jitsu. And kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I'm going to do what I planned to do initially at the beginning of all this, and it's time to step it up. Now that there's all these other submission only shows, and I love them all. There's so many of them out there. Finishers, Ultimate Mat Warriors. There's so many. Honored Invitational. Now it's time, to step it up and do combat jiu-jitsu. Whenever whenever we're gonna have a male combat or a male show, we're gonna do combat jiu-jitsu. When we have female shows, we're gonna stick with submission only. That's where EBI is headed to now.
Got it. We're a little bit short on time, so let me pick your brain on just a couple more topics very quickly. As I mentioned, the Quintet will be the day before Khabib versus Conor. You're a ground wizard. What are you expecting from Khabib and Conor if it does go to the ground? There's this conventional wisdom that Khabib is going to run over him, and maybe he does, but I often thought that the guard work we saw from Conor against Nate Diaz was actually short-lived, but pretty good. What are you anticipating in the event that it goes to the ground?
Well, everybody's guard so far hasn't been good enough for Khabib. You look at Rafael dos Anjos, Edson Barbosa, Michael Johnson, all these guys. That nobody has the guard to deal with Khabib. Especially since most of the guys that Khabib takes down, they're running on the ground, which means they're trying to get back up to the feet. They're trying to use the fence to drag themselves up. So they're basically running from the ground game, No one's really stayed and faced Khabib head on their back. And that's what Tony's going to do. Tony's not going to be one of those guys trying to drag himself up and trying to just, crawl their way, spend the whole round trying to get back up while he's getting mauled. Tony's not going to do that. If he gets taken down, he's going to attack him. He's going to square up and attack him. So Khabib's got to worry about Tony's ground game because Tony has a lot of firepower. So does Conor have the most powerful left hand ever, pound for pound? Probably, but that does not translate to guard work. So odds are if Conor gets dragged to the ground, it's not going to be a good night for him. It's going to be a long night.
Well, it's going to be a great night, October 5th, when we get to see Quintet in Las Vegas. I will be there, Eddie. I can't wait to see it and what your team can do. And, of course, EBI 17 middleweights from the Muscle Farm HQ, Burbank, California, September 29th. Both Quintet and EBI 17 will be on Fight Pass. Eddie, I always appreciate your insight and can't wait to see what you guys have on Fight Pass. Thank you so much.
Thank you.